Welcome to Voices of Adoption, where we share unique perspectives, actionable advice, and meaningful stories of birth parents, adoptees, adoptive families, and other members of the adoption community. I'm Donna Pope, Executive Director of Heart to Heart Adoptions.
And I'm Nathan Gwilliam, founder and former CEO of Adoption.com.
Together, we've been part of thousands of adoption journeys over the past 25 years, and we're so glad you're here.
Let's begin today's conversation.
Welcome to Voices of Adoptions. We're excited to have with us Kristina and Herbert, and we're excited because they are educators. And one of the biggest challenges for us as adoptive parents is with education. And so we're excited to hear how they look at non-traditional ways of education. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having us, Donna. It is a pleasure being here.
Yep. Thank you for allowing us to be on our show and to spread our message. It's a pleasure.
Well, we're glad. I'm going to tell just a little bit about you. Kristina and Herbert are parent mentors, educators, and longtime partners that have spent over 3 decades helping families strengthen relationships and reimagine education for children who are not thriving in traditional systems. And believe me, as a mother of 3 adopted boys who did not thrive in traditional system, this will be wonderful. They have spent 27 years in education. Herbert built a career in business and entrepreneur, and together they've lived experienced, professional, and have passion for family well-being. So they have created a vibrant family education and a Bringing Education Home podcast. And so we're excited to hear about them. This is especially for parents who are seeking flexible, child-centered alternatives to traditional schooling. So tell us a little bit about how you got started in this.
Well, it all started with me being a teacher for 27 years. So I was actually in the traditional classroom for many, many years. And
what level?
Second and third grade. So my 8, 9, 10-year-olds. Absolutely great age. Absolutely.
That's that?
Yeah. But as I was ending the end of my career, I was realizing that there was more that I could do for families outside of the school district instead of inside the school district. The thing called the pandemic happened. And at that point I was teaching online, not the regular classroom, but actually the online program for my school district. And I helped create this kindergarten for 2nd grade online curriculum. And so as I was there, I was working with parents. So not only was I teaching, but I realized that I was parent mentoring and coaching just as much as I was teaching, because the parents would get online with me and say, oh, my child can't pay attention, or we can't get this assignment done, or how can I adjust things? Because of course they were more in the trenches with the kids when they were at home. And so that's when it's like, you know what, it's time to leave public school and help families outside. And that's when I took on that full-time position in Vibrant Family Education as a homeschool and parent mentor for helping bridge this education gap that we have between the public school, the homeschooling, and the different ways that people want to educate.
Well, no, this could be a movement. I mean, this is a movement. Do you want this to be a movement?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead, Herbert.
Yeah, I came at it a little differently. So I'm an outside of the box thinker. My brain works differently, and especially because along the way, I kind of messed it up a little bit.
What do you mean by that? How did you mess it up?
I suffered a series of traumatic brain injuries, and my life went very, very, very dark, and it was very hard for me to climb out of that hole. But during the process and over the years of working of watching Kristina work, helping in her classroom, grading papers, all of that. When she started, she would cry at the end of the year because she was going to miss her kids. The last couple of years, she was like crying throughout the year because she couldn't reach her kids. What was happening in the school, she couldn't talk to the parents. They were restricting her access. And so it got more and more difficult, hard for her. Yeah. And so then when she started realizing that she was coaching parents, and her class was half and half. Half of the parents took the coaching, were very, very involved with their students, and those kids did amazing. Yeah. Most of them didn't even show up to class except for special events because their parents handled it all. And then there were the other kids where the parents weren't really paying all of that much of attention, which is kind of why they were in some of the remedial classes anyway. And though she had to work a lot more with the kids. And through that process, we found out that she really liked working with the parents. And that created so much more velocity with the children. And so we decided to start working with motivated parents. So we left the school system. There's other reasons for that too. Again, I hurt myself. Things kind of went crazy. And in the rebuilding process, this idea came about because when I was building my businesses, all of it was about
family,
starting a school and creating this in the future. But when I hurt myself and that all fell apart, the rebuilding process, it just came about very naturally. And for me, God got involved and pointed out that it's not going to be my school the way I imagined it. It's going to be the parents' school. And we are going to be helping teach the parents, not even really teach them, but just help them understand how much they already know and already do and already are teaching their children. So we just give them permission to do what they're already doing. And then the courage and the support to realize that what they are doing is so much incredibly better than what's happening in public education right now.
Okay, so I have mixed feelings hearing what you're saying. My mixed feelings are, dang, I wished I would have been involved in this sooner, because I think about perhaps the disservice that I gave to my children. They were, they're adopted, and with adoption comes some additional challenges, and sometimes those challenges can be overwhelming to adoptive parents. And sometimes there's a desire for adoptive parents to just say, here, schools, please help me do something that I don't seem to be able to do. But then you see the kids in the schools and they're not doing well. And they're not doing well, but you have no idea what to do about it. And so you're saying you've come up with a solution.
Yeah. And that is basically homeschool, right? But it's homeschool with support. So you have someone like me who can come alongside you. And when you have curriculum questions, when you have teaching questions, when you have questions about, am I doing this right? Am I giving my kids the right kind of support? It's that coach that helps, a mentor that really helps you dig in. Is like, this isn't working. What do we do next? This isn't working. Can you give me a suggestion to get over this hump, this bump kind of thing? And so with that, we've seen great success. I mean, I have a kindergarten. No, he's first grade now. A family that I have been working with, and the mom is like, oh my gosh, I don't want to put him in regular school because I know he's not going to be successful. He happens to be on the autism spectrum. And she's like, I don't want him to have that lack of confidence. I don't want him to lose his love of learning. I want him to be able to communicate more and do better. And so working with her, I've helped her create his program. I've helped her get through the rough spots. I've helped her have the confidence when she's like, oh my gosh, everything's going wrong. And that's the kind of beauty that we can have when we have the involved parents who are willing to receive a little bit of coaching and mentoring, willing to take that step out and say, yeah, I'm ready to do whatever it takes to help my kids be successful.
And one of the interesting things about that story too, is the way she helped that mom the most was slow down. Don't make your kid do so much, do less, play more. And so she really had to back that off a little bit. And one thing with adoptive parents, do you have any children of your own?
No, I don't. Okay. I don't.
So one of the things that as a parent that we really talk about is parents are the first best teacher for their children. Okay. You teach them how to walk, you teach them how to talk, you teach them how to put food in your mouth. You teach them how to stay alive. And so much of that is lost. And so with an adoptive parent, I can see, unless you get them as a very young baby, that there's a lot of that you're going to miss. But you are your child's best teacher. They're around you the most. When life happens, they get to see what you do. Children learn more from experience and watching and modeling than they do from the actual classroom, which is also one of the reasons why we so strongly recommend taking people out of the classroom. And so that's the first myth of homeschooling. And another thing is we call it homeschooling, but we call it education at home, because you do not replicate the home system. You do not replicate. The school system is broken. You don't do that. There's so much more information in brain science out there. Like, you shouldn't even really start teaching children, especially boys, until the age of 7. Let them play. Formalized teaching. Yes, the worksheets, that kind of stuff. Because the way their brain is developing, if you wait till they're 7, they will catch it a lot quicker, because those last year and a half, they're developing the tools to make that work better. So these are just all of the interesting little things that we know and we can help people
understand.
Okay, so I need to do one thing. I need to kind of correct myself, because I said that I don't have children of my own. My children are my children. But what you were referring to is biological children, and there may be some differences in that. But either way, what you're saying, when you say the school system is broke, what do you mean?
Well, just that
Can I go for this one first?
Okay.
I'm the out-of-the-box thinker. All
right. Go.
So she's going to go in the teaching model. Our education system was built off the Prussian military model a long time ago. And it was built when we were moving into the Industrial Revolution. And so we had so many people moving from farms into cities to be able to take these factory jobs. And they didn't need critical thinking skills, and they didn't need imagination. So what they did was they taught them numbers, they taught them specific reading, they taught them everything they needed to do to be able to get a job in the factory. But there's no money, there's no creativity, there's no economics, there's no humanity in it. They're just creating workers. And when we started losing our industry in the United States, our education system didn't switch to keep up with that. And so one of the things that we do is the education is individualized to every child. If you have 3 children in your house, you had 3 boys. How similar were your 3 boys?
It's like, not at all.
Did they all like the same subjects? Did they all learn math the same? Did they all read? No. So the school system with your 3 kids, it's like it wouldn't have it. It tried to level it out and make them all kind of the same. And that's what the school system is doing. But in this day and age, with the way creativity and stuff is changing so fast and moving so fast, and we don't have as much industry, and we're not supposed to follow directions. Even in an office, there's like so much creativity. How are you going to do this? And if you can take initiative and do stuff on your own in a creative fashion, you do so much more. And by sending your kids to school at 5 instead of 7, that last 2 years of creativity is entirely squashed. Having them line up in rows and sit still, and over a 6 or 7 hours of day, only have 2 or 3 hours of actual academic instruction, and then the other 5 hours of angst and sitting there and wondering and all of that stuff. It takes away the learning. It takes away the love of learning. It drops the creativity, and it creates people who are more yes-oriented and task-oriented instead of creative people moving forwards.
So this is so interesting, because in the day of growing AI, and then in a day when anytime I have a question, I pull out my phone and I say, "Hey Siri, tell me how far it is between here and wherever." I just talk into a little box there, and I can find out anything I want to anytime. If I have a question about math, I pull out my little calculator and I do my little calculator. So all of the things that are traditionally school things don't seem to matter in the same way anymore. So what should we be teaching?
And that is where I love this, because yes, that everybody needs their basic, what I call academics. So there's a definite difference between education and academics. So of course, the academics, we still need to know how to learn, how to read, write, do math, the basics, right? But then, like you said, when you're interested in something, you can pull out the little box, or you can turn on the TV and go find out all sorts of different things on YouTube and by researching and things like that. Now, there's still things that the children need, and the things that they need is how to be human, How do they show up in the world? How do they keep their sense of curiosity? How do they learn to cooperate and work with each other? Those are the things, the life skills, the human skills that we so need. And we know that behavior, emotions, spirituality, all of that stuff is based in the home anyway. So let's keep it there and help teach our children through that lens of how to be responsible, how to be a go-getter, and how to help the family, how to do the jobs that they're going to need and be self-sufficient. So when we're teaching our children about how to clean around the house, how to make the bed, how to go change the oil in the car, all those different things that you can put into the curriculum when you're doing education at home, guess what? They're self-sufficient when it's time for them to be out there in the world, and they're not relying on other people.
And then the out of the box thinking, you get your diet, you get your exercise, you get your sunshine, you get the stuff. So many of the problems in school are based around the diet. If they like eat the homeschool lunch, there's like 10 times as much sugar for the school lunch. There's like 10 times as much sugar in a school lunch as a pregnant woman needs during the height of her
those
pregnancy.
Little cartons of milk. Yeah, if you ever looked at the sugar content on those, especially the chocolate milk.
It's huge.
Huge.
So if we clean up the diet, we work on communication a lot. How do we communicate with each other? How do we start learning about feelings? How do we start talking about the things in life? How do we clean the room, change a tire? It's like bring it back to life so that we can manage life and how to deal with stress. So we take it back so that these things that now that we have all of these tools that we are trying to get back or remove all of our childhood trauma and all of these things, how about we take all of those things that we're doing and teach those kids how to release that energy, deal with the conflict, have a better diet earlier, understand how exercise clears their brain and their body, give them the tools to make this vehicle function properly so that they can function properly. And that's something that is so missed in school.
So my children are all young adults now. We've gone through the school. They didn't do super well in it. And yet they're all really bright in their own way. And now they're struggling. And I think all the time, honey, do you not know how to cook a boiled egg? Honey, do you not know how to just make some good macaroni and cheese? Do you have to DoorDash everything? And so some of those, and clean your freaking room. Just do you not know how to make the bed? And I think, oh my gosh, have I failed? Did I expect the school system to teach them these things? I guess in some ways I sort of did. And so taking back those responsibilities, and bring them into the home so that when they're young adults and then older, some of those they have the life skills that they need.
Exactly. And that's one of the things that we really work on a lot at Vibrant Family Education is making sure that, yes, those basic academics, like I said, are covered. And how can you live your life with joy and purpose and connection and have your children learn all of those different things? One of the things that a lot of parents forget is that they say, go clean your room. Well, our children are not wired with go clean your room. They don't know how to do it. They haven't seen it. They don't. And so we forget that each of those things actually needs to be taught in step and in sequence. And hopefully when they're younger, so you aren't doing it for them too much, but then reviewed as they get older, as they can take on more responsibility. So for example, whenever you say, go clean your room, you should, at least for the first 2 weeks, be in there with them.
2 months.
2 months.
2 years,
right?
depending on the
age. Right? Depending on how old they are and what they're learning. But the other thing is making sure that whenever we go in, you're not doing it for them. You're asking questions. You're making a game out of it. You're driving the curiosity. It's like, oh, hey, look, I see that your bed covers aren't put up the right way. What would it look if we made the bed? And then you do that with them and they do it and they show it, right? Oh, hey, I see toys on the floor. What would be a logical place? What would be a great place for our toys to be so we don't trip over them? So those kinds of things, you're engaging and you're teaching. And
there's a book on the floor.
There's a book on
Is there a
floor.
specific place where that book normally goes? Can you pick it up and put it there?
And
Yeah.
that's starting from the very, very young age. And then as they get older, if you have like a picture of their room and have that by their door, you say, go clean your room, and the picture of a clean room is by the door, then you can say, oh, you know what? Here is the picture of what we said our room was going to look like. Does your room look like that right now? Guess what? They're not arguing about, oh, I don't want to do this. They're all actually looking at, oh, this is what's supposed to be. This is what I agreed to. So now I'm going to go do that, right? They're still going to be fussing, but it's an easier way of connecting, right? And if we remember these things and we're training these kids when they're younger and working with them and doing it joyfully and curiosity, guess what? It works a lot better.
I love you use the word of connecting. Now, you use that word in two different ways. One, connecting with the image of how you wanted it to be. But for an adoptive parent, connecting with the children is absolutely essential. Now, for all parents, it is. But that connection has to, and what you're proposing, now I'm gonna in a minute, I'm gonna give all adoptive parents a break, because every adoptive parent listening to this is feeling overwhelmed and going, I cannot do one more thing. But there's that idea of, okay, you could use this way of education to connect with your children, especially if they're trauma-based children, especially if there's foster care or any problems. So now tell me, as an overwhelmed adoptive mom, how I could make this work.
Okay, my turn.
Okay.
All right.
That's
So that's one of the things that we do is you get overwhelmed because it's like, I have to do all of this and I have to remember all of this. You don't. You only have to take the next step. And that's where what we do comes in handy, because we can hold all of your steps. And if you have to change direction, we can help you. Because if you start doing something like, oh, this isn't working, you have control. It's your family. And I got to say, one thing that I just also thought about of adoptive parents is you are already motivated. You wanted your kids.
Yeah.
You know, I know a lot of people that have kids that didn't necessarily want them. You had to work for them, and it's expensive and a pain in the butt. So you are motivated already. If you send your children to public school, you see them by the time they graduate about something like 3,000 hours. If you homeschool them, you get closer to 17,000 hours. Okay. So if you want to spend 15,000 more hours with your children that you fought so hard for, then do it at home. And now here's the other thing. Depending on the age level, it's only like 45 minutes to 2.5 hours of academics a day. The rest of the time, they are exploring what they want to do. With you. Some of our parents, it's like, okay, we started to teach the kid, and now it's so irritating because they're coming, look what I'm doing. Look what I'm doing. Hey, come look at this.
The kids are
and the kids are making the parents learn. So it's such a weird thing. You think you don't have the time for it, especially entrepreneurs, but to take them to school and to pick them up, that's like sometimes 2 or 3 hours waiting in line every day. And if that's all the academics you have, instead of taking them to school, you could be teaching them, and then they could be playing music in their room. They could be doing their art. If they're sports, they could be doing their sports. They have so much more time to learn and grow and be in the family. You're cooking with them. You're shopping with them. They're learning the money. They're learning to clean their room. They're learning budgets. There's so much more education, learning life skills that they get at home in that extra 15,000 hours that you get.
Now, this is incredible. It's incredible. And having done it the traditional way, actually, it was interesting because when COVID hit and my kids now needed to be home, it felt like it was going to be hugely difficult, but I actually found I enjoyed it. I enjoyed being with them. I was home because we had to be home, and I found I enjoyed it. I don't know that we've ever changed back from that. But you now say there is a path that we can follow to make the good parts of what happened in COVID mixed with a structure of non-COVID.
Yeah.
And we've had parents work with us that took their children out of school, And then their situation changed and they ended up needing to put their children back into school. And again, it's flexible. It's the last full right that American people have, is how they educate your children. There's like, if you pull your kids out, they can't do anything. So that is your last full untarnished right.
So I'm from Idaho. And in Idaho, the people who homeschool, they were kind of sometimes a little weird. So and and so there is sort of a philosophy of, if you homeschool, it's because you're a little weird. Counter that philosophy.
Okay, so
my turn.
You want to talk about weird? Talk about kids meowing in school and teachers having to pretend they're cats and dogs.
So
that's a good point.
The weird ones are in school. You go.
Okay.
One of the things that is the thing that every single homeschool family that we talk to laugh at.
One of our three big myths. My kids won't be properly socialized.
And the reason why is because if you think about it, if you are engaged in educating them, you're engaged in making them be self-sufficient, respectful human beings, you're not going to drop the ball on making them socialized. You are going to make sure that they interact with other people, that they can be out in public and not embarrass you, right? All those kinds of things. But the other way to look at that is this. There are sports leagues out there that every single child can be participating in, right? If you go to your public school, most of them have a law or a rule that homeschool families can participate after school in theater, in sports, in band, etc. So you can put them in with their neighborhood kids if that's really, really what you want. But alongside that, you also get to bring your family values into this and help them be socialized in that way. If you are a religious family, awesome. You get to do more things with your church and other church groups and youth groups and things like that. If you're not a religious family, awesome. Maybe you're a community service family. You get to go do park cleanups. You get to go visit food banks. You get to go help out and do other things. You purposely make it so your child is interacting, and they get to interact with all different age ranges, right? We have so many homeschool families who a child can walk up and have a complete conversation with an adult and not be hiding behind mom and dad because they've had these varied experiences. And it is so wonderful to have that. And then on top of that, for our families who some adoptive parents may be entrepreneurs, guess what? A lot of those families want to be able to travel and experience things. Well, now that you're an entrepreneur and you're not tied to a desk at someplace either, and you're running your business wherever, you get to travel with your family. And then those kids also get to have those kinds of experiences. And entrepreneurship for young children, letting them dabble in, I want to create this business for a while. That, again, they're learning those life skills and those communication skills that don't let them be weird, right? They're ready to communicate. So that is, like one of our three big myths.
And they also get to learn in a cooperative manner. Yeah. So if you take your kids out of school and your son, one of your kids really liked music, well, then you're going to take him to a music class. But instead of in school 1 day or maybe 2 days a week for 45 minutes with half of the class poking and goofing around and making faces and not wanting to be there, they get to go to a music class with, again, all ranges of ages. They get to see older people being more responsible. They get to see younger kids goofing around and probably actually try and help them focus a little bit. And so they get world cooperative experience chasing something they want, music. How much more are they going to learn if they're in a group of people working cooperatively together instead of the after school music program or with just people their own age? Again, also another kind of angle is my most traumatic experiences in my life mostly happened in high school.
Oh, you hear that from everybody.
Okay. So if you're homeschooling, your most traumatic experiences probably won't happen in high school. If you think about it, it's like you have a whole bunch of kids all the same age who are told to sit still in rows and be quiet, and then 10 or 15 minutes for recess, and then half an hour for lunch. You have this massive kids who have been sugared up and told to sit still, all released at once, and they have no communication or cooperation skills, and then they're just out there, and it's like, yeah, that's not at all, a bazillion little humans with no communication skills trying to get along. That's what they call socialization. That's the socialization that you're missing out in school, is trying to figure out how to do that without any help.
Okay, so you mentioned you had 3 big myths. One of them was the kids would be weird. What are the other 2 myths?
That you're not qualified to be the teacher, which is the parents are the first best teacher. The other side of that too is, let's say I'm not qualified to be a teacher because I'm bad in math. I'm not qualified to teacher because I can't read very well. You are living proof that the school system let you down. How come you're not qualified to teach math? Oh, because I was bad in math at school. How come the school didn't help you at math? You know what? If you take that over and you start teaching your kids, more than likely you're going to find some things that you missed, and your kids are in that process. And even if you don't, your kids that with the online curriculums can do so much better, because
and then you can also hire coaches, tutors, etc., right? So the things that you're kind of weak in, that you're kind of not sure of, you can get help with.
And you're motivated parents already. It's like you did the hard work. It's like, keep it going. Don't drop the ball with the education. It's like, now that you got them, this is the most important resource that you will ever have. It's like your jobs come and go, your friends come and go, your houses come and go, but you want your kids with you for the rest of your life. How many other people are going to do that? Your kids. Invest in them. You invested in them. Keep going.
And the biggest investment right now, that a part of what you're saying, is that, maybe your boys didn't do it very well because of some of those things they brought with them because they were adopted, right? If you think about all the adoptive parents who are trying to make sure that their children are overcoming the trauma of maybe something that happened when they were younger, maybe they were adopted later, etc. What better way to give them safety and security than to have them home, have them feel connected with you, connected with their family, and then being able to learn in a safe environment. So again, the trigger isn't being pushed. Oh, you're not good enough. Oh, you were, abandoned, whatever happened, right? But if they're in the safety of a place where they know that they can learn and make mistakes and not be ridiculed or whatever, right? Then how much more learning can they have? How much more confident are they going to feel? And how much better is their life and your life going to be because you have that safety and connection?
The number one challenge of adoptive parents is attachment.
Yep.
That's always the most important thing. And this is a primary way that you can improve that attachment.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you think about it, if you do like adopt a special needs child, a child who needs extra therapies and things like this, plays into myth number 3, is that I don't have time to homeschool, or homeschooling is not going to, education at home isn't going to work for me. Well, think about this. If you have one of those kiddos who needs special therapies, maybe extra counseling, maybe extra whatever, right? Instead of working around that school schedule that is really difficult, if you're educating at home, you get to use those therapies as part of, quote unquote, their education. And they get it when they need it. They get it when it's good for them. You get to help them learn at the time when they're most awake and aware and ready. So your child. You're like, oh, my child loves to sleep in. They're not a morning person. Awesome. Then you make your family schedule. So you do the academics in the afternoon. Oh, my child is up and early and ready to go, and they want to learn first thing. Awesome. You do the academics in the morning, and then the afternoon, when they're kind of tired and worn out, they get the art, the music, the other things, the sports that you want. So it's really about, you do have time. You just have to move it around. And even if you're a single family or a single parent, right? Or a parent, 2 parents that have to work all the time, you can still rearrange and make this happen, as long as you're motivated. And I know adoptive parents are really motivated.
Yeah, because there's older siblings, there's aunts, uncles, grandparents. There's people who can be because you don't have to be the educator. You just have to be the person that kind of make the facilitator.
That's so interesting. You could even have one of the older kids be like the TA, the teacher's assistants, and that would be a value a thing for them too.
But you wouldn't want to like make it that way all the time, because then that. But yeah, so it's like, oh, mom has to work, go to this person for questions, and then bring it up the ladder, but at certain times of the day, it's this, so, but you have that there, you have that learning capacity. Then the kids have the agency. It's like, oh, it's not time. I have to deal with this by myself for a little while longer until I can get help. So there's so many more opportunities for growth and learning in that at the same time.
Okay, so now the next question is, what is the results showing as to whether or not these kids that are homeschooled are reaching the same level of competency that people within the schools are?
One of the biggest indicators is colleges are highly, highly recruiting homeschool.
Actively recruiting.
Because they graduate from college at higher rates. They require less help from the staff and administration, and they're just so much more competent in the way they get through classes.
And they're not getting big, huge balls of debt because they go in usually knowing what they want to learn.
We have had a lot of experts that also help, like teaching homeschool people how to start applying for loans and grants as early as 5 years old, as soon as they get into college. So by the time they get to the point where they're graduating, if they're going to go to college, because a lot of homeschool children, they actually start businesses, they know what they want to do before they get there. So if they do go to college, it's very, very specific to what they want. And it's not, I'm going to go spend 4 years and try and figure out what to do.
Because they've already searched through some of these things.
Yes.
They had experiences.
They've reached 5 or 6 different levels of competence as well. So that's one of the things that they do. It's like they'll follow a path for 6-8 months. It's an entrepreneur learningship style. You pick a topic, you learn it, you master it. If you want to continue with that, you take it to the next level. If it's like, oh, now I need to pivot and go this direction, you go that direction for the next 6 months. If that works, then you can keep going. If you get to the end of that, it's like, oh, I want to now do this. You have so many opportunities, like 5 or 6 of them before you get out of high school, where you can do complete pivots on directions. And then when you graduate, you'll have 5 or 6 masteries that you can take with you. And that's one of the really cool things, is because the children pull that in with what they're interested in. And all you have to do is facilitate. Give them options, show them directions, and then they pull what they want, and they have to learn how to do what they want. And it's just really incredible to have to get out of the way of your children instead of trying to push them to do something.
For sure. Okay, now here comes the most important question. How would somebody get started if they wanted to do this?
To get started, the very first thing, of course, is to have the dedication, the thrive, say, yes, I'm going to. And then the second thing is to look at your state rules. And that is something that we also help with, because each state has its own homeschool rules. And there's 3 different levels. There's a medium, the low intervention, the medium, and the high. And you have to look at your state. But every single state allows homeschooling.
And some states, actually, if you take your children out of the school, the money follows the children.
Yeah,
so you can use, so the states will pay the parents to pay for the sports programs, the music programs, the tutors if they need. Yeah. So there is in some states. Oregon,
unfortunately,
don't worry about it. No,
not so much.
Not going to happen in Oregon, which is where we live.
No voucher system there.
But whenever you get started, you really want to look at, and we take them through values. What are your family values? Is education one of your high values? Is honesty, integrity, whatever your family values are, and set up your calendar and system. After they get that in place and they know how they're going to work, whether it's going to be an online curriculum, a book curriculum, a more open, what we call unschooling, which we just basically do life. Or
even micro schoolings or mini schools or pods or group schools. It's like, there's so many ways.
Yeah. And then after that's done, you get into your rhythm and routine, what works well. And again, be flexible, be ready to pivot if something doesn't work. So you're going to set up your schedule and say, I think we're going to do it this for a while. If it doesn't work, awesome. No problem. Be ready to flex and pivot.
So we're going to have you make sure we get the information associated with this podcast of where they would call you. So can they just actually call you and say, hey, I want to do this. Kristina, walk me through what my next steps would be.
vibrantfamilyeducation.com. That's our main website. There is a page where you book a call and you do exactly that. You get on there and you talk to me and we explore it, right? There's also some courses on there that will help them if they want to do it by themselves for a little while. And then we also have our podcast, Bringing Education Home, that gives lots of tips. But vibrantfamilyeducation.com, that's where you get a hold of me.
And we do have a checklist and you can go through it. But just like any coaching program or any entrepreneur knows, it's like you can give them all the information and they can write it down, but it just kind of gets overwhelming and it kind of gets lost along the way. So having somebody to help step you through it each of the way. And then when you get lost, just a quick phone call is like, oh, I'm feeling overwhelmed. It's like, oh, calm down. You're doing too much. Chill. Oh, hey, here's a tool. How this might work. Okay, let's step back and have a meeting and let's get more to the root of it. There's so many ways that we can go about helping so that when you get to that point, and it's not just us either. We have a community and we also
I was going to ask that. I was going to ask that because let's suppose 50 people call you. You're not going to be able to help all 50 of those people. So how do you do that?
Then we have our community. So for example, I am most comfortable with the younger years and I have another person that's more comfortable with the upper years, right? So we can help find that right connection. Maybe it's not an education issue per se. Maybe it's a speech or a communication. They're having parenting differences. We can help a lot with that. But we also have those connections to help them as well.
And maybe there's trauma and anger issues. Yeah. Maybe there's a lot of fighting in the family. That's not we can kind of, but we also have experts and a huge panel of experts that can help with different situations. So even if it's not necessarily something that we can help with, then we can totally put you in communication with so many different experts that can help. And again, one of the things that we also encourage is finding local community as well, because it's great having people to be able to keep the high level stuff, but to be able to share and commune and share tea with someone or coffee with someone who's going through the same thing is very, very grounding and helpful, because we all go through the same thing just from our perspective and we think we're alone.
So you're not.
So if you get help, if you find help with that in the community, it can be so grounding as well.
So this is tremendous. Of course, I'm going to ask about cost. I'm going to go there, but I also want to ask about what if they're in the college years? Do you do anything to help kids that have now supposedly graduated from high school and are now exploring, what do I do as an adult?
Well, I do not. I only work on K through 12. But again, we have those people in our back pocket. We have young adult coaches, mentors. We have a couple of people who really help the kiddos who are like senior year dive in and say, oh, what are my next steps? One of our people, he says, going from nest life to best life. That is his tagline. So he helps them take that jump, that leap from one space to the other. Yeah.
Okay. Cost.
All right. So the beginning program, where we look at the first 8 weeks of getting you up and started picking curriculum, going through values, really getting a schedule routine that first 8 weeks, is $597 for those first 8 weeks. And then from there, we look at how much support.
$597?
$597.
For someone who has done what they needed to do to adopt, that's really not very much money.
Well, it's only 8 weeks and there's a lot that has to be crammed in there.
All right. $597.
And then, of course, if you want full year support, we'll talk about that at the end of the 8 weeks and really help dial it.
But that would get them going. Now that would be wonderful to get started.
Yeah. And the 8 weeks, the first couple, it's like you can choose to see if it's kind of information. It's like, so if you have questions, it's also answers a lot of questions. And so at the end of it, it's like, no, this isn't going to work for me. Then it's an easy out. You're not committed. But once you get to that point, you can take your kids out of school at any point. And then it's actually best if you wait a few weeks after they get out of school to let their body regulate and come down and get your family routine. before you start implementing what we're talking about. So it's not you start and then suddenly it's like, rah. It's a process to get involved so that your life flows. It's not it kind of is a little jarring because your kids are suddenly home all of the time, but we flow it so that it synchronizes with how you want to live, and you don't have to force the schedule. So much of the first couple weeks really is just getting back to a natural rhythm and finding out, hey, when do your kids wake up? When do they go to bed? When are they most active?
And are they ready to learn?
Those kinds of things. And now that they're off of sugar, what's their behavior really like?
Yeah. And one of the last questions that a lot of people ask is, do I have to wait till the end of the school year? Do I have to? No, the answer is you can do this anytime, right? You may want to wait till like a semester or something just so you have a clear cut, whatever, but you don't have to. If you are having issues at your public school right now and you really, for your child's sanity and your safety and their safety's sake, you can pull them out at any time. So
if your kid doesn't want to go to school in the morning, if you have to fight, you have to get them out of bed. If they're not jumping up and wanting to go to school, then there's something going on, because children should be excited all the time. It's kind of one of the things about being a kid.
And the other thing that our home parents say is, I wish I would have started sooner. That's what we say constantly. I wish I would have started sooner.
Even if they have to put their children back in school, which some of them have, they say their children do so much better in school because they come at it with an attitude of learning instead of an attitude of fitting in. Yeah. And so homeschooling, even for as little as a year, can dramatically increase how well your children do if they need to go back.
This has been fascinating. I very much appreciate. I think about one of my boys, and I could not get him up in the morning. I would drag him out of bed. Yeah. I'd get them into the car. I'd send him off to school. And then I'd find out I was watching his location, and I'd realize he'd fallen asleep in his car at the school parking lot. And we fought that and fought that and fought that and fought that. And why I never gave up the fight and found a different way, I don't know, because I didn't know there was another way. And so this has been very helpful. Again, the name of your group is Vibrant. Say it.
Vibrant Family Education.
Okay. And that makes sense. And we'll make sure that it's connected with this podcast. Thank you so much for sharing with us. For those of us who have adopted and are struggling with how do we educate our kids, how do we maintain that connection with our kids, at the same time we're trying to make them fit in with society and follow the rules of society, this gives us hope. So thank you for that.
A wonderful day. And thank you again for letting us be on here today. We really want to reach more people because the children are our future. This is so important.
Oh, and this is like I said before, this is a movement. We are in a new world. We're not trying to be trained to be factory workers. We're trying to be trained now to think, imagine, create, because we have tools that can do the mundane work. We need to be able to think. We need to be able to look outside the box like you do, Herb. And then we can use AI and we can use other things to do the mundane work. We don't have to do that anymore. We've got to be able to think broadly. And so this is really good. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye for now.
Thank you for listening to Voices of Adoption. I'm Donna Pope.
And I'm Nathan William. Every voice in the adoption triad deserves to be heard and understood.
Visit voicesofadoption.org to subscribe and access additional resources. And then join us next time as we continue to build bridges through conversation.